there's a hillside about that steep, and we started digging it out, chopping it off and leveling it out, and then there's Stephanie adding some hibachi, and as the fruit of our labors, we had a young girl in her little school uniform bring us out local coffee in the family's teacup once they ran out and went on to paper cups. In the village, my name is Mary Proctor, by the way, and I, as a Capitol Hill resident, have spent a lot of time in St. Mark's, but I'm not a member of St. Mark's. I'm a friend of the Eagles, and it's a great privilege to be on this trip. In the village of El Tule, we were part of a community-wide effort to build a tree nursery that involved creating the potting soil, sifting it from all the little stones that were in it, and then putting it into little plastic, tiny garbage bags, and then getting ready to transplant seedlings, which were being placed in terraced, three levels of terraces up behind the schoolhouse. There were probably a dozen men, 15 or more women, about 30 kids, because the teacher happened to be absent, and 8 juniors that were doing this. And it was a fabulously exciting, community satisfying effort. The kids were particularly in charge. They did a lot of filling of the little bags, but they also ran them up the hill. And they competed with each other as to who could run the fastest with the most little bags. The winner of the most little bags was actually a woman who was nearly 70, named Donna Maria Garcia, and she was not to be outdone by little boys, and she ended up walking, not running, 7 bags like this huge armful of little bags. We paid a fee for the trip, and that fee included enough money to add additional micro-projects to support the projects we were involved in, but also lots of projects in other villages. And that was very satisfying that we could provide these little bits of money, $50 here for a stove, $35 here for the fertilizer, and fish ponds and irrigation systems. Now, as you had heard before, one of our goals was to connect with the women in the villages. Through many planning meetings that we had all fall, we decided that the best way to do this was through crafts projects. And we invented 2 of them, and you'll see them here. You can buy frames at IKEA for $1.99 each. And we assembled a lot of donations from St. Mark's to allow people in both villages to decorate the frames, and then we were going to take their pictures, which you'll see in a minute. And we thought this was going to be for the women, but when we got into the schoolroom, there were 15 children all ready to go, and then more children came, and then finally a couple of women came, but a man came with them, and then more men, so we ended up with over 50 people. Probably 10 men, probably 20 women, and at least 20 kids. And they were thrilled with this experience. We also brought with us a portable printer and took photographs of everybody who wanted to have a photograph taken, and pretty much everybody did, in portrait style. And then we printed them late into the night in our hotel and brought them back a couple of days later, and they loved them. They made such a pretty picture with all the different colors that people chose. We had buttons to glue on, and little spangly things to glue on, and dots of paint. And one of our jobs was holding babies so that people could do this with both hands rather than just one. We also bought tote bags. Exhibit A. This can be bought for 99 cents on the internet at cheaptotes.com. And St. Mark's showered us with donations of buttons, embroidery thread, yarn, ruffles, what we did is this time we said this was for the women because it did require concentration and sewing skills. And we basically explained what materials they had, spread them out among the tables, and from then on we really didn't have to do much except hold babies. Because it's harder to sew with one hand than it is to make frames with one hand, paint frames with one hand. The other thing we had learned is that willy-nilly the kids were going to be there, and so we needed to break loose some of the projects that we had designed for the students, for the kids. And 5 out of our group of 8 entertained the kids with making paper hats, making paper fans, paper airplanes, coloring. And they were working like mad while the rest of us, the 3 of us that stayed with the tote bags, were holding babies. As you can see, the women were very proud of their work. I asked at least 8 or 10 whether they'd ever had a tote bag before. It's called un saco in bolsa in Spanish, and all of them said they never had one. And we found one bolsa hung up in the place of honor in the dining room in the house that we ate in. And we saw them for the next couple of days. We saw, see the place of honor right there on the right, the lower right. That's right next to the frame photographs. And we saw them being carried. And one of the things we realized, one reason they don't have as many bolsas as we do is not just because they don't have access to bolsas. They don't have as much stuff to carry. They don't have much stuff. But the stuff they had went into these bolsas. And after this, on the 3rd day, we started conversations with the women in both villages. In our village of Tule, one of the first things they said after we introduced ourselves in Spanish, everybody introduced themselves in Spanish, and they did, who they were, how many children they had, whether they were married or not. Then they said they noticed that we had far fewer children and filed that one way in the back of their minds. They also said that they were really happy to have projects be brought to them that challenged them and made them think. And this was said especially by the mother of a 3-month-old that she really never let go of the whole time, except to hand it over to someone else while she worked. So this is her right here, Donna Zoila. We asked them if they voted, and to a woman they said yes. And then we asked them if they liked their president, and to a woman they said no. And then they asked them if they liked the mayor, and they also said the mayor of the county, and said no, because he had cut out kindergarten, and they loved that kindergarten teacher, and they liked kindergarten for their children. A poignant question was, we asked how life had changed since they were young, and an older woman said it was much harder now. And particularly it was harder to get water, and it was harder, I think, to use this infertile soil. And what brought the house down is we were trying to feel out what was happening since they didn't seem to have any electricity. And so we asked them what they did at night when it's dark. And the room, first they exploded